The 2024 election wasn't close in some states, and here's why. While political experts were obsessing over swing voters and suburban moms, there was a voting bloc so massive, so organized, that they didn't just influence elections, they decided them. We're talking about white evangelical Protestants, a group that makes up double-digit percentages of the population in certain states and votes with laser-focused unity. In Georgia, their vote count alone exceeded the entire margin of victory. In Tennessee, the math made the outcome inevitable before a single ballot was cast. These aren't just red states. These are states where one specific group holds the keys to the kingdom. And the numbers don't lie. Number 10, Georgia. Georgia flipped blue in 2020 and everyone lost their minds. But 2024 told a different story. White evangelical Protestants make up 28% of Georgia's adult population. Over 2 million people in a state where elections are decided by tens of thousands of votes. Here's the kicker. 89% of them voted for Trump in 2024. That's roughly 1.8 million votes from one group alone. Trump won Georgia by approximately 120,000 votes. The evangelical vote didn't just contribute, it crushed the margin. Without this bloc, Georgia doesn't go red. The state's growing diversity gets all the headlines, but the evangelical vote is still the anchor. They showed up in rural counties like Gordon and Murray, where they make up over 40% of the population. They dominated in exurban areas around Atlanta where megachurches dot the landscape. Georgia might be changing, but 2024 proved evangelicals still hold the cards. Number 9, North Carolina. North Carolina is the swing state that never quite swings. White evangelical Protestants comprise 25% of North Carolina's adult population, roughly 2 million voters. In 2024, 87% of them voted for Trump. That's about 1.74 million votes. Trump won by around 180,000 votes. The evangelical vote alone nearly matched the entire winning margin. While Democrats poured millions into Charlotte and Raleigh suburbanites, evangelicals quietly delivered the knockout punch. They're strongest in counties like Johnston and Union, fast-growing areas where church attendance is as common as backyard barbecues. North Carolina isn't purple because it can't decide. It's red because one group already has. Number 8, Indiana. Indiana doesn't get attention during elections because there's no drama. White evangelical Protestants make up 23% of Indiana's adult population. In 2024, 86% voted for Trump. With evangelicals concentrated in Hamilton, Hendricks, and Johnson counties, the booming Indianapolis suburbs, the Republican baseline is rock solid. These are educated, affluent suburbanites who attend massive churches and vote conservative down the ballot. Trump won by over 400,000 votes. Indianapolis might lean blue, but evangelical suburbs bury that advantage every time. Indiana isn't in play. Number 7, Missouri. Missouri used to be the ultimate bellwether state. It voted for the winning presidential candidate in every election from 1904 to 2004 except one. Those days are over. White evangelical Protestants now make up 26% of Missouri's adult population, and in 2024, 88% of them voted for Trump. That's a voting bloc of over 1.2 million people in a state where Republicans win by 500,000 plus margins. The transformation is complete. Missouri isn't competitive anymore because evangelicals dominate the southern half of the state, the Bible Belt region around Springfield and Joplin, and they're growing in the exurban counties around St. Louis and Kansas City. Places like St. Charles and Clay counties used to swing. Now they're deep red evangelical strongholds. The Democratic coalition in Missouri is limited to the urban cores of St. Louis and Kansas City, and it's simply not enough. Evangelicals have turned Missouri from a swing state into a Republican fortress, and there's no sign of that changing. Number 6, Alabama. Alabama doesn't surprise anyone. It's been deep red for decades, but the why matters. White evangelical Protestants make up 35% of Alabama's adult population, one of the highest concentrations in the nation. In 2024, 91% of them voted for Trump. That's an astounding level of political unity. Alabama Republicans don't win close elections. They win landslides. Trump took the state by over 700,000 votes. The evangelical bloc didn't just decide the outcome, it made the outcome inevitable. They're everywhere, in the suburbs of Birmingham and Montgomery, in small towns across the Black Belt despite being a minority there, in the rural counties of North Alabama where evangelical churches are the social centers of entire communities. Alabama Democrats can win local races in heavily black areas, but statewide? Forget it. Why the evangelical vote is too large, too unified, and too consistent. This isn't a state where campaigns matter much. The math is settled before anyone casts a ballot. Number 5, Kentucky. Kentucky used to elect Democratic governors pretty regularly. It still does occasionally. But presidential politics? That's a different story. White evangelical Protestants make up 31% of Kentucky's adult population, and 89% of them voted for Trump in 2024. That's nearly 1 million votes in a state Trump won by over 600,000. Eastern Kentucky used to be Democratic coal country. Those days are gone. The region is now deeply evangelical and deeply red. Western Kentucky, around Paducah? Same story. The suburban counties around Louisville and Lexington lean evangelical and conservative. Even in areas where Democrats still compete locally, the evangelical vote makes statewide races non-competitive. Kentucky isn't just Republican, it's evangelical Republican. And that coalition is unshakable. Democrats can win the governor's mansion when they run moderate candidates focused on local issues, but national elections are a lost cause. The Evangelical Bloc has made sure of that. Number 4, Arkansas. Arkansas gave America Bill Clinton. Now, it won't even give Democrats a competitive Senate race. White evangelical Protestants comprise 34% of Arkansas's adult population, a massive presence. In 2024, 90% of them voted for Trump. Arkansas went for Trump by nearly 350,000 votes in a state with only 2 million total voters. The evangelical takeover is complete. Northwest Arkansas around Bentonville and Fayetteville is booming thanks to Walmart and the University of Arkansas. But even there, evangelicals maintain significant influence. The rest of the state is locked down. The Delta region is heavily black and votes Democratic, but it's depopulated and shrinking. The evangelical vote in places like Jonesboro, Fort Smith, and the suburbs of Little Rock buries any Democratic hopes. Arkansas isn't just red, it's immovable. When the Evangelical Bloc has created a political environment where Democrats struggle to even field credible candidates, that's what happens when one group controls over a third of the electorate and votes with 90% unity. Number 3, West Virginia. West Virginia's transformation is legendary. It went from electing Democrats to every major office to being the reddest state in presidential politics. White evangelical Protestants make up 30% of West Virginia's adult population. In 2024, 92% of them voted for Trump. Let that sink in. 92%. Trump won West Virginia by nearly 300,000 votes in a state with barely 1.2 million total voters. The Evangelical Bloc didn't just decide this election. It obliterated any possibility of competition. West Virginia evangelicals are concentrated in the southern coalfields and the eastern panhandle, but they're present everywhere. They're the reason Democrats can't win statewide anymore, despite the state's union history and working-class roots. Cultural issues trump economics here. None of the Democratic Party's positions on social issues alienate evangelicals completely, and there aren't enough non-evangelical voters to compensate. West Virginia used to be the most Democratic state in Appalachia. Now, it's the most Republican state in the nation, and evangelicals made that happen. Number 2, Oklahoma. Oklahoma is where mathematics meets inevitability. White evangelical Protestants make up a staggering 36% of Oklahoma's adult population, the second highest rate in the country. In 2024, 91% of them voted for Trump. Oklahoma doesn't have competitive elections at the top of the ticket because the numbers make it impossible. Trump won every single county in Oklahoma in 2024. That hasn't happened in most states in generations. The evangelical presence is overwhelming. Oklahoma City and Tulsa both have large evangelical populations despite being urban centers. The suburban and rural areas completely dominated. Places like Moore and Edmond are evangelical strongholds where churches have memberships in the tens of thousands. Democrats occasionally win local races in Oklahoma City proper. But statewide, the evangelical vote creates a mathematical wall that can't be climbed. Oklahoma isn't just red, it's structurally incapable of being anything else as long as evangelicals maintain this population share and voting unity. Number 1, Tennessee. Tennessee sits at the top for one simple reason. The numbers make any other outcome mathematically impossible. White evangelical Protestants comprise 37% of Tennessee's adult population, the highest concentration in the entire country. In 2024, 90% of them voted for Trump. That's over 2 million votes from one group alone in a state of 6.9 million people. Trump won Tennessee by nearly 900,000 votes. The Evangelical Bloc didn't just contribute to that margin, it guaranteed it before the campaign even started. Nashville is booming. Memphis has a large black population. But none of it matters. Evangelicals dominate the suburbs of every major city. They control the small towns. They're the majority in rural counties. In Tennessee isn't just culturally conservative, it's structurally locked in by the sheer size of the evangelical population. Democrats can win Nashville and Memphis, but the evangelical vote in Williamson County, Rutherford County, and hundreds of smaller communities creates an insurmountable Republican advantage. Tennessee doesn't have close elections because the math won't allow it. These 10 states prove that demographics really are destiny in American politics. The evangelical vote isn't just influential. In these places, it's determinative. And here's what nobody's talking about. This bloc is growing in some states while shrinking in others, which means the map might look very different in 2028. The question isn't whether evangelicals will keep deciding elections in these states, it's whether other states are about to join this list.